going to mug me?
Am I going to mug you?
Is that gorgeous or what, eh?
And I believe I can run a decent marathon.
Download Veely now.
Travelling down Route 66, America's legendary highway, 4,000 kilometres from the urban canyons of Chicago to the Californian coast. America's former main motorway was long regarded as a lost highway until it became synonymous with freedom and adventure. The old highway takes us to America's people, their daily lives, and their stories. Route 66, the road through America's heartland. Dark clouds hang heavy over Route 66. Here in Missouri is where America's Tornado Alley starts. Early summer is high season for these deadly storms, always a source of deep fear and anxiety. We've covered over 800 kilometers since we started out in Chicago, and we still have some 3,000 to go. This is a journey westwards, tracing the steps of an old road that has become legendary. Route 66 is a romantic symbol for life on the road. Our search for its remnants has become a real adventure. The bridge at Devil's Elbow gives us an idea of what a journey through America must have looked like long ago. When the interstate highways were built, they took away the majority of traffic on Route 66. Today, the motels along the old highway are little more than deserted ruins. Only a few have survived, one of which is the Manger Moss Motel. Manger Moss has been in the hands of Ramona and Bob Lehman for 40 years. At one point they considered modernizing the motel like other chain operations, but their guests persuaded them otherwise. Thanks to their intervention, the Manger Moss has retained its unique 1950s charm until today. A charm that guests are willing to pay for.
This is what made the road famous. It's nostalgia, it's romance, it's going back in time, it's the slower pace of life, it's dreams, it's making those dreams come true. Route 66 is just not going to die.
70 years ago, acclaimed American author John Steinbeck nicknamed Route 66 the Mother Road. It has retained its status in the collective American consciousness, even though today there is no reference to the highway on the road map. We leave Missouri, driving a few miles through Kansas, and arrive in Oklahoma, the gateway to the West, pioneer country. Here in Miami, Oklahoma, the pioneering spirit is still palpable. This theater is the pride of Miami's 12,000 residents. The magnificent building was opened in April 1929. The theatre was the culmination of a lifelong dream for its owner, George L. Coleman, who was 70 years old when it opened. Starting as a waterhole driller, George went on to succeed as Oklahoma's largest mining magnate. After his death, George's heirs converted the theatre into a cinema. Years later, the family donated the building run down and in disrepair to the city. But what exactly was Miami supposed to do with it?
The city councilors were divided because we had lost our major industry, we had no money, and they thought, it's a prime piece of property, let's just tear it down. However, the people in the community said, this is the heart and the soul of our community. We had our first date here, our first kiss here, and they had a big meeting. And they filled this auditorium, and they convinced the city to accept the theater.
Now called the Coleman, the theatre has been run by Barbara Smith for the last 22 years, and Barbara certainly appears to have a knack for marketing. The majestic setting is now a highly popular venue for large company events and festive occasions for wealthy families, and is a real boost to the local economy. Miami residents located the theatre's original long-lost Wurlitzer theater organ collecting dust in a Texas warehouse. They bought the organ back and restored it to its former glory.
Thousands and thousands of volunteer hours, in-kind labor. The electrician whose grandfather and father worked on this building, he's probably donated several $100,000 worth of labor. We have a plumber who trades his labor for tickets. And we just have people who come and spend hours every week. Almost everything is done by volunteers with a very small paid staff. So it is a story of a community.
On some evenings, one can go back in time to when stars from New York and Hollywood prepared themselves to hit the stage at the jewel of Route 66, as the Coleman is nicknamed today. In true Hollywood style, this happy ending was made possible by the dedication and civic pride of the residents of this small town. The signs are now unmistakable. Route 66 has entered the Bible Belt. The fear of God is ingrained in the very culture here. Even the petrol stations are in the Lord's service. The Golden Towers of Oral Roberts University in Tulsa, Oklahoma, can be seen from far away. This is the world's largest charismatic Christian university. In establishing the university, its founder, the Reverend Oral Roberts, invoked God's authority and the miraculous power of the Holy Spirit. The worship service on Wednesdays is obligatory for all 3,000 of the university's students.
Love for the kingdom and for Christ and his cause never fails to...
Robert's successor, Mark Rutland, is the bearer of very bad news today. A young female student was murdered 2 days ago during a romantic date with her boyfriend. This is a shock for the 3,000 students for whom premarital sex and homosexuality are taboo. Male and female students live in separate dormitories and believe that the theory of evolution is a product of Satan. The students here come from 55 different countries. Vijay Luvian grew up in Sweden as the adopted son of a devoutly religious family. Vijay will soon graduate with an engineering degree.
This force F sub BC, so it's going to be minus F sub BC.
This university offers a wide range of scientific curricula taught from a strict biblical viewpoint.
So we're going to assume that
Its
this
message
structure-
also asserts that faith in God is rewarded with professional and personal success. One of the reasons Vijay left Sweden was to combine his strict religious beliefs with his university education.
To me, for our humanity and for the future of our world, I think morals are really, really important. And to me, we were talking about faith. My conscience, my morals, even that fact that I have them, to me, it's an indication that there is something more than just the material that we study in engineering and we study in physics. One reason I think that was good for me to come to an environment like this was to settle some of those questions. And having gone through this university and more, even growing up in life, I've come to terms with a lot of these things, and I'm stronger in the things I believe today. And this university has been a part of that experience.
Susie Land sees herself as a messenger whose mission is to bring God's voice where it is not heard. Music to the Nations is an academic missionary program. Oral Roberts University calls it a hardcore experience that is not for the faint of heart.
Music by itself is powerful enough. It's the language that transcends every language barrier. It doesn't matter where you are, people respond to music, whether here or in Germany or in New Zealand or Russia or wherever, people speak the language of music. And when you put that with the power of the Holy Spirit, with God, it's an unbreakable force. It's something that it can't be beat anywhere. The power that comes through the music and infiltrated with the love of the Lord is unstoppable.
I won't stop singing it, I can't stop, I won't stop singing it,
When her education is complete, Susie wants to carry her message to the world as a music pastor. Hers is the mission of one of the religious elite in a nation that views itself more than ever as Christian. Route 66's course through the American heartland takes visitors on a unique tour of this country's cultural contradictions and diversity. The old highway proceeds through numerous small, well-kept towns. Here, in small-town America, is where this nation presents itself the way it most likes to be seen. The landscape changes between Oklahoma and Texas, and it's now time to become acquainted with an American legend, Cowboy country. In Oklahoma City and Amarillo, Route 66 connects with the USA's two largest cattle markets. The ranchers bring their cattle from far and wide to market. Sometimes more than 10,000 cattle a day, providing the raw material for the hamburger, the cornerstone of the American diet. The auction house is the heart of the cattle market. The monotonous ritual continues for hours. The uninitiated recognize very little and understand even less.
You know, we work together every day. They're professional buyers and professional auctioneers, so we know how to read their body language. A lot of it's looking at the cattle when they come in, and we understand, you know, when we see that animal, pretty much who the potential buyers are going to be. So that's kind of who you look at and understand, you know. Some of them will bid with just a little flick of the finger. Some of them will use it. Some of them will bid to you. Some of them will just kind of raise their hands, and some of them will just wink to you. But you'll learn how to read them, you know, and understand who you're looking for, and to look for those little subtle movements. And you scan the crowd with your eyes. And like I said, this is something we do every day, so you know you learn how to read them.
Bailey Ballou grew up on a cattle ranch. Bailey is the world's #2 ranked cattle auctioneer, and he knows his market.
The market's as good as we've ever seen it. It's a world. It's just a record high right now. It really is. We've seen really great numbers, which is quite a relief right now because we're so dry. People sending them to the market because they're running out of grass or running out of water. It's as high as we've ever seen it right now. They've opened up a lot of trade across the world with Korea and China, and some of the trade markets have really allowed our market to come up.
While this is good news for America's ranchers, the growing demand in Asia for all things beef means that back home, Americans face higher prices for their beloved hamburgers. We return to Route 66 heading further west. Since we departed, we've covered 1,600 kilometers. And now, Texas calls us into the heart of the Wild West. Nowhere else along Route 66 will you find bigger mountains of meat devoured than at this restaurant in Amarillo, the main city of northern Texas. This steakhouse is well known all over America.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I have your attention on stage, please? Up here, I'm Jimmy, coming all the way from Austin, Texas, trying to eat our 72-ounce steak at our contest. This poor man has exactly 1 hour to put down 4.5 pounds of top sirloin, baked potato, dinner roll, house salad, and 3 fried shrimp.
This spectacle is called man versus food, and whoever manages to eat everything gets it all for free. In 50 years, this challenge has only been met by 8,000 diners, or roughly every 6th candidate. One hungry competitor even managed it in just under 9 minutes. According to this list, most of the winners top out at well over 14 stone, 100 kilos on the scales. Amarillo calls itself America's cowboy capital, and its saloon-style steakhouses are a top attraction. They're full to the rafters, night after night. Jimmy still has half an hour to go. Places like these make no secret of the fact that they are mass operations, tourist traps that are unavoidable for travelers on Route 66. Only 10 minutes left for Jimmy now, but he's stuffed. And then comes the inevitable end. The waitress declares, "Game over, guys." Jimmy missed the finish line with only 200 grams of steak left on his plate. Jimmy's journey of self-discovery tonight cost him $72. It's late now, but we hit the road once again. Long before sunrise, life is already bustling at the covered wagon grounds in a small town near Amarillo. A chuck wagon cook-off is starting here in northern Texas. Chuck wagon was the name of the supply wagon that accompanied the cowboys in former times on their cattle drives across the prairies. Its driver was also the cook, and his wagon was the central point at every rest stop. 14 teams have assembled here today for the type of traditional Texan cooking competition one can find virtually every weekend in this area. Sam Howell has been at it for 11 years.
It's a hobby. We just enjoy it. We all have jobs at home that we go do, and then we take off for a little extra long weekend and have a little holiday and go cook. And it's a lot of work, but it's different work, and we enjoy doing it. So.
A jury makes sure that everything is done and looks just like it did 150 years ago. Every detail receives devoted attention. Similar to the legendary status of Route 66 itself, the aim here is to preserve American tradition, particularly for a Texan like Randy Whipple.
The history here is very recent, but it's really rich and exciting, and it's neat how the fellas from back those days, you know, the Texas Rangers like Charles Goodnight, helped settle this country, and he used this country to raise cattle and to make a great fortune. And it's just a great American story is what it is, and that's what we enjoy ourselves, and the opportunity to come out and cook like we have for 120 years and enjoy this lifestyle. It's just more fun than you can shake a stick at.
Nearby, the teams are in the midst of their preparations. The point is not just to cook. It's about interacting with friends and family and meeting up with kindred spirits again. The event organizer provides the ingredients for free. Each team makes the same dishes. Today's menu is Texan fried chicken steak, mashed potatoes, beans, gravy, bread rolls, and peach cobbler. The undisputed favorite is Sue Cunningham, a cook-off veteran and the author of 3 coveted wagon cookbooks.
We always just do our best every time. We just want to try to stay on top. It is competitive. There's a lot of good cooks out here. So you really have to hook up and cook. But yeah, we have a lot of fun doing it. It's hard work, as you can tell, you know, with all these heavy Dutch ovens and stuff, but it keeps Western history alive.
Every team has to supply the jury with samples of their cooking magic, all under strict anonymity. A cook-off is a bit like a small local fair. 550 plates are sold to visitors today at $15 each. The proceeds go to the local community museum. This is also America, community life in action, coupled with real competition.
First place goes to C-Bar C.
The favorite triumphs. Sue Cunningham and her team take the top prize. And next weekend, they'll do it all over again. Amarillo would scarcely be Amarillo without a rodeo. Tonight, the Cowboy capital is one stop on a rodeo tour known as the World Championship among the pros. This lasso discipline is called team roping. This is a rodeo highlight, saddle bronc riding. The rider has to stay on the bronc for 8 seconds. But the main attraction remains, as always, bull riding, a battle with over 2,000 pounds of concentrated muscle. This cowboy is an expert.
Hey, that was good, wasn't it?
Ed Montana is on the organizational committee for the rodeo. He's joined today by his daughter Susie. Ed maintains that to see how real cowboys live, one has to go to a ranch like his. All this is only show. And that's typical of Texas. 1 minute we're spectators, the next we're invited to Ed's ranch, a good hour's drive away through a broad, flat, scrubland countryside. Here we are at the High Card Ranch. Joss Halsell, the foreman here, brands the young cattle. They're almost 1 year old now, so they are let out to graze in the pasture, but not before they are branded. Ed Montana manages the ranch, which actually belongs to a pharmaceuticals wholesaler in neighboring Amarillo.
Didn't like that move. The Iron Horse.
Every day, Ed hops inside his Iron Horse to inspect the 5,000 hectares of his ranch.
You see this whole area here right now, there's probably 15, 20 people and 10,000 head of cattle. This is Wild West Ranch, just the way it's been for hundreds of years. This is where the cattle make their living, out here surviving with the coyotes and the bobcats and the mountain lions, the rattlesnakes. Oh, it's beautiful. This is home. I'm very lucky.
We accompany Ed down into Palo Duro Canyon, once the last sanctuary of the Native Americans hiding away here from the soldiers and white settlers.
Hello, boys. Down here in the green grass.
Ed grew up here. He knows every nook and cranny of the USA's second largest canyon.
This is a special place in the Palo Duro Canyon. The water runs year-round, thanks to God. And many times we've been working cattle, hot, dirty, tired, camped up here in the campground. You need a shower, there's your shower. And you better be quick because it's cold water. It's magical. Now you know why the cattle like to come here. There's always water, there's always green grass, and you're out of the wind, blue sky. It's maybe it's the Garden of Eden.
Everyone in Texas knows Ed Montana.
Well, the warden led a prisoner down the hallway to his doom.
His songs conjure up the larger-than-life mythology of the freedom enjoyed in the lives of the legendary tough cowboys.
And I heard him tell the warden as he came near me that day, let my guitar playing friend make my request.
Suddenly, the myth is interrupted by daily life on the High Card Ranch. A steer has broken out and has to be recaptured. It takes a good while until the cowboys manage to lasso the bull. The steer almost seems to know what's coming. He remains defiant, even in the corral. One more outburst, and then his resistance is broken. As we are leaving, Ed tells us that the next time we see this steer, we'll be on the grill.
Oh my good God!
And we head off ever westwards on Route 66. Outside of Amarillo, the ruins of the scattered ghost towns have long become tourist attractions. At first, the bikers came to retrace the footsteps of the cult film Easy Rider and discovered the fascination of the deserted highway. These days, motorcycle tours of Route 66 are a well-organized business, and business is good. This group is from Norway. The obligatory photograph in front of midpoint is a must. This is the halfway point of the almost 4,000-kilometer long motorway. The village of Adrian still has all of 160 residents, and almost all of them earn their living from the claim that the town is the precise middle point between Chicago and Los Angeles on Route 66. Estimates put the annual number of nostalgia tourists on Route 66 at 500,000. Shield Erik Larsen is back again for the second time.
It's the history from the first road between Chicago to Los Angeles, east to west. And especially under the 30s, we're all were on the move because of the Depression and all that. People were moving everywhere, and this road were used to move around. And it's fascinating, actually. It's fascinating. This is not an ordinary road. So, for me, it means a lot.
Route 66 symbolizes an attitude. To travel this road is a statement. There is nothing these days to remind us that in the 1940s, Glen Rio was a lively rest stop. Glen Rio is located here directly on the border between Texas and New Mexico, and between two of the 4 time zones along Route 66. On the left, it is 1 hour later than on the right. The Norwegians are eager to get moving and cover some more ground before the midday heat sets in. Then quiet returns to Glen Rio. And the town once again breathes the spirit of the past. We resume our journey on Route 66, often straight as an arrow and always westwards. Where nature is less than generous, human ingenuity pitches in. The Cadillac Ranch is a work of art to see and touch. Sprayers can hone their graffiti skills at will here. In 1974, an eccentric oil millionaire offered the San Francisco-based artist group Art Farm a piece of land next to Route 66. This was his way of ensuring that the old highway's decline would be memorialized.
There we go. All right.
It is up to visitors to decide whether the 10 half-buried Cadillacs represent a criticism of modern-day automobile worship, or why the angle of the cars corresponds precisely with that of Egypt's Great Pyramid of Giza. Since we left Chicago on Route 66, we have covered more than 2,000 kilometers through 5 US states. We are now in New Mexico, once the land of the Spanish conquistadors, who gave this town its name. In earlier times, Madrid was a mining settlement. The mine was closed in the 1950s, but the town survived, thanks to its hippies. Waz McDaniel was one of the first to discover Madrid as an ideal spot to live an alternative lifestyle, back then in the 1970s.
When I first got here, all these shacks were abandoned, and there were only like maybe 20 or 30 people living here at that time. Well, we had hippies and freaks, bikers, cowboys, outlaws, drug addicts, gay people, you know. We just decided that live in peace because we tolerate each other's idiosyncrasies, those little quirks that we all have that can drive some people crazy. We're essentially a bunch of free thinkers here. Not very many of us practice any religion. Matter of fact, there's a lot of people here who are recovering from the Christian religion. Yeah.
Waz takes us to the Johnsons of Madrid Galleries. The Johnsons were the first to come here in 1973. At that time, Mel Johnson and his wife Diana were art professors in Chicago, both in their mid-30s. For artists like themselves, the situation was ideal, but something was still missing.
One day I came home and I said, Diana, did you notice that the sun hasn't come out for 4 months? And we sat and started talking, and we said, you know, we could move to New Mexico. This was a ghost town. The only people who moved in here were basically bums, people who had no vision. They just wanted a place to sleep. Well, my wife and I came through, and we looked and said, wow, that's opportunity. I just saw opportunity. That's how the town looked to me. It didn't look that way to anybody else because there's nobody here.
Here, the Johnsons found an ideal place to live their lives as artists. And it didn't hurt that Mel was also a trained carpenter.
Those galleries used to be a barn for coal. So it had no insulation, no plaster on the walls. It was just a bare frame of a building where the coal trucks were. I just fixed the place up myself.
The Johnsons' Gallery is a spiritual center of the community, a place for discussions and classical music concerts. Diana designs fashion for people who are not interested in fashion.
There has been a change. I think that there's always been a real simpatico, acceptance of all kinds of differences. I'm having a little trouble accepting the recent differences because some of the people that have come in recently, the dollar sign is more important than the historic context of where we are, and that doesn't always make things as comfortable because they've just a different attitude and different goals. But that's what the whole world is made of right now. Is the dollar sign is the thing that's making and breaking us.
Madrid, like so many other places along Route 66, is no longer a well-kept secret. shops along the town's main street still represent themselves in keeping with the spirit of the town, but behind the cheerfully coloured hippie facades, commerce and competition have also settled here. Madrid's initial hippie residents seem like exotic relics now. Waz's friend Sky Fabian lives high up above the town. A recent stroke almost cost this former co-pioneer his life.
Even you? Even your dog? No,
Sky was at the start of a promising acting career when a trip to Europe and Morocco proved to be a turning point. He ultimately found what he was looking for in Madrid.
One word, freedom. I have my freedom. I can do anything I damn well please. We have no mayor, no elected officials, no bureaucracy, no police, and no corporations.
Freedom, the original American dream. For a moment, it became a reality in Madrid. And then, Sky wants to show us something else.
This is me at age 30.
High above the town, next to its old cemetery, Madrid's hippie generation built a place of serene grief. These graves represent the final encounter with lifestyles that found fertile ground in a ghost town in New Mexico's Sierras. America's Main Street, as Route 66 is known, is a road for seekers, for those in search of the American promise of freedom and the pursuit of happiness. We will follow Route 66 to the coast of California, the dreamland of modern America.